Welcome to the Aligned Voices podcast. This is a space created by Healthy Aligned Living for honest, real conversations about healing, growth, and what it actually looks like to build a healthier life. Every episode gives you practical tips, supportive insights, and empowering ideas to help you move forward, no matter where you are in your journey. If you or someone you care about needs support, head to healthyalignedliving.com for HAL programs, groups, and helpful resources. Just a quick reminder, this podcast is here to guide and inform, but it's not medical advice. Always talk to a qualified healthcare provider before making changes to your treatment or care plan. Take a breath, relax, and let's get into today's episode of the Aligned Voices podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Aligned Voices. It is hosted by Healthy Aligned Living members, and we are very excited to begin this journey with you. Today, I'm joined by my team member, Mehviz, and together we will be learning more about the incredible impact that our guest, Dre, who is the founder of Healthy Aligned Living, is making. Speaking of Healthy Aligned Living, it's a trauma-informed youth empowerment nonprofit completely dedicated to young people who want to rise above addiction, trauma, or mental health challenges. Welcome to the show, Dre.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, Mehviz, and nice to meet you, Bana.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. I'm excited to be a part of this conversation, and I wanted to learn more about your work and journey, Dre.
So speaking of the personal journey and the origin of the story, or I can say Healthy Aligned Living, I just wanted to start by asking, can you take us back to the start of your journey, or maybe, share something that actually led you to create Healthy Aligned Living?
Yeah, sure. No problem. It's what I can tell you in a nutshell, in a sense. My journey started heavily with the loss of my sister. Growing up, we like to drink and party, but, things got really bad when my sister died, right? Prior to that, I was on my way to law school, doing nursing. I was on board of directors. I was a high GPA, straight A student. But there was a turnaround. I didn't know how to handle grief. And with my journey with grief, I was still in party mode in my mind, but really my body was in problem mode. And at this time on my journey, I realized there's a lot of young adults that are going through the same issue. I connected with them either through detox or rehabilitation, or in some cases, prison or jail. So when I had got to Alberta, and I saw that there was a big gap with the youth in this city and the province, basically. I said, instead of myself going back to keep doing degrees and master degrees and PhD, how can I just start helping now? And I did a little bit of research on starting a business and a nonprofit and what was needed to start a nonprofit. And I was happy to go the nonprofit route because I'm not really here to make money. I am just happy if I help save one life. That's where I am today. Even understanding how grief and death and all the overdoses we're seeing in the world today with fentanyl or opioids, it has brought my awareness higher. And I'd like to give back to the community. And that's where we are today.
Thank you, Dre, for sharing that. I now, and it really, I think I can connect to it. And I realize that, how deeply personal this mission is for you. But you have shared so much about the story or the backdrop or how exactly it started. What was the main breaking point, or when exactly did you realize that your struggles could be turned into something that can help others, especially the youth? So what was that one single instance that, you said, no, I just want to get up and I want to turn my struggles, my grief into something that can help the community or especially the youth?
Basically, it was the connection I was making with the youth, either as my own children, like as a father, or whether I was working in the prison system. And I found that the youth were always trying, whether it be through relapse or death, but they always wanted a way, and they didn't really have, in a sense, like a big brother or a big sister to help them. And I felt, growing up myself, if I had known the things I'd known today, a lot of things could have been avoided, So that's where the biggest breaking point for me was, seeing a lot of youth not having the mentorship or life skills needed to overcome addiction or understand what depression is, or why they had thoughts of suicide, or how to overcome poverty or homelessness, or what resources did they need to overcome their struggles. So I made a decision that I will try to help those that want the help because I didn't have it growing up. So that's how it connected there.
I think that's quite powerful, and I really can't agree more. Mavis, do you have any inputs for Dre, or do you want to ask anything from?
Yes, that was really inspiring, Dre. When you were starting Healthy Aligned Living, what were some challenges or the obstacles you faced in the beginning? Can you please share some?
Still having struggles, but the main struggle for me was having people understanding the vision and then realizing am I already starting something that is kind of already in effect or being started. I didn't want to duplicate anything. So the biggest challenges were some of those. And then meeting the right connections. The city is very big. So meeting the right people, having the right support systems and connections. And then, you're also learning about statistics, regions of the city, where do you want to be, the location, hotspots, stuff like that. And I mean, the challenges are never over. Even just waking up every day is a challenge because you still have to look at, revenue streams, grants, contracts, and how can you do this without, overwhelming the individual that wants the help because they are also, in many cases, going through financial crisis or housing issues, right? So the biggest challenge was how do I keep the vision alive and also not based on monetary value?
Wow, I understand that. Thank you for sharing it. Now, let's take a step forward and we'll talk about Hall's mission and approach. For listeners who might be listening about Hall for the very first time, how would you explain its mission in simple terms?
So the mission in simple terms is we want to help young adults, male or female, acquire the life skills they need to get ahead and have a mentorship support system in their life. Now, it doesn't just have to be young adults. Now, we're also talking to families. A lot of families, mothers and fathers alike, have children that are going through the struggles. And how do they reach out for resources and to find help? Even just this week or over the weekend, I should say, I got a phone call from an elderly couple. Their son is back home, and they found my contact through an addiction clinic, and they reached out to me for help. And, those are the things we look at. Our mission is to basically just provide life skills or support for those that need it.
That really helps paint a clear picture.
Thank you. Thank you.
I second that, Mavis. Dre, your programs center on mentorship and lived experience. How exactly does that shape the recovery journey differently from the traditional models that are being used till date?
Well, traditional model, let's say you come to a youth center, it's a good spot to hang out. The kids come, have some snacks, play PlayStation, watch movies, work out. But we want to take a different approach where, maybe we're going to help you learn financial literacy, budgeting, how to, finish your programs with a tutor or without a tutor, how to get hands-on skills for job employment. Not saying anything that the current youth centers may or may not be doing, but picture it like a Big Brother association mixed with the Canadian military. So it's there to provide strict, but also compassion. Because, when we're dealing with mental health and recovery, if there is no discipline, if there is no purpose, if there is no holistic approach, then the recidivism rates go up. And basically that means it's a revolving door. You go to rehab and then you graduate, you get let out, and then you're right back in the system if you haven't developed those skills and utilized them long term. Even organizational skills, learning how to write a proper resume, right? Some of these things are not taught all the time, especially in school or when you're coming out of addiction. You might have to rewire the brain, right? So this is where we provide that mentorship. Now, if you want to come and hang out and watch movies, that's okay. But we're also going to connect you to the proper housing workers or the people that can help you with your addiction counseling. So resources like that, and that is the main difference, is preparing you for the future, not just a band-aid, more of not like a temporary fix, but we're gonna look at what your goals are. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Do you understand how mortgages work? Do you understand how to budget, right? Stuff like that.
Okay. Now, so we are talking so much about, dealing with trauma or addiction or mental health issues. I just wanted to understand, which is I think a quite important topic as to how do we exactly recognize the early signs of struggle in youth? And in your experience, what are the common, early indicators that a young person may be starting to face, or how do we exactly realize, if how do parents, loved ones realize, okay, these are the early signs of struggles that my son or daughter or my loved one is facing or starting to show? Like, how do we understand that?
Well, the biggest factor, one of the biggest factors is environment, right? So you're going to want to look at what is the type of environment the youth are in, right? So you compare somebody that's going to the gym every day, eating healthy, or are we dealing with somebody that's what we call experimenting with cigarettes, moderate drinking, moderate light partying, right? So it starts off light, and then it starts from fun to fun and problem to problem, right? So to recognize when you're at the fun and problem stage, you have to recognize the frequency of how you're doing things. How often are you wanting even something different like ice cream or pop? Like, what is the increased level of activity and cravings, right? What is your mind process? Who are you hanging out with? Who are your friends? Like what are the factors that are surrounding you to keep a mindset that's positive or negative, right? There are many signs, and in some cases you may never know. Sometimes some things can happen as quick as overnight. There's also, we get into genetics, predisposition, right? You can have two twins, right? Exact environment, and one can be an alcoholic and one can be sober, right? So there's many factors involved, but I think the biggest one, in my opinion, is your lifestyle and your environment.
Thank you for sharing these. I think these highlights how subtle some of these signs can actually be. And thank you so much for sharing these early signs. I think it's very important and crucial for parents or loved ones to understand these.
Yeah,
I
it's just about looking at what the early stages are. For me, for instance, we always wanted to go out on the weekend and party, right? We have to understand how the brain works. So if we are partying and drinking every weekend, eventually the brain is going to want more and more and more. So there has to be
Absolutely.
a time, yes, there has to be a time where if you're noticing that you're starting to do something that could be damaging to your body a lot at an early stage, that should be a flag to say, hey, maybe I should slow it down before it gets to that point, you know. And check, do regular checkups with your doctor. Keep an eye on your kidney or your brain or your everything, right? And you'll also be able to tell, your body won't lie to you as well.
True. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, thank you.
I totally agree with it, Dre. Are there any signs that people often misunderstand or they don't even notice, especially on parents, teachers, or even peers?
I would say, the disconnect between assumption, right? Let's say a parent, kicks, a lot of stories we get, the parents are kicking the kids out because of disobedience. But in their mind, they might say, I'm kicking them out because I don't want it in the house. And I don't want it around our environment. But in some cases, what you could be doing is throwing that person into the fire, right? So when it comes to judgment and assumption, it's also good that the parents or the counselors or the teachers always stay up to date with trending in the news, keeping an eye on what the kids are liking to do, and then helping everybody develop healthy habits. So that's the big thing too. What are you encouraging the people around you to do? So for instance, what we like to do with Healthy Aligned Living, we all have a regiment. No matter what we do in the mornings, we either go for a walk or somehow we find our way to the gym, and it's a non-negotiable. Some of us do 10K steps a day, right? So developing healthy habits is a good thing without that, I think, peers like parents or coworkers or whatnot, if there's no healthy lifestyle or there's no understanding of how to keep a healthy lifestyle, and white flags are coming into play, these are the things we want to look out for: is what type of style are the people living in today, in my opinion, of course, right? So
Yep, that's very important to hear. It shows how easy it is to miss such signs.
right. And I mean, it's not everything can be picked up. In some cases, some things are retroactive. You catch it after. But as long as you have a door open, as long as you're willing to help, and be supportive, people will also take initiative to help themselves as well if they have that support.
Yes, I agree with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Thank you
so
so
now
much.
that actually we are talking about these early signs, or how do we see recognize these early signs? What do you think? Like, what difference does the early support really makes in someone's recovery trajectory? How does that help?
So what we're finding through statistics is we focus on a holistic approach. So, we find when people have a purpose, whether it's spiritual, whether we want to call it the universe, or we call it meditation or prayer. But when we find somebody that they have a connection to a purpose or a higher power, that helps with their recovery journey. It helps with the relapse rates, it helps with recidivism, and it helps just with the whole rewiring of the brain. It's not even just me saying, we're looking at this through science as well. Belief, and overcoming obstacles, resilience helps overcome a lot of mental health challenges. So my biggest thing I would say is connecting something. I don't know if I want to say the word spiritually because I don't want to scare anybody off with that word, but I'll say maybe holistically, connecting with yourself holistically and finding a neutral point, whether you wake up every day and you meditate or you do breathing, deep inhaling and deep exhaling, and just finding places to do mindfulness practices, stuff like that. That helps a big difference when it comes to recovery journeys.
I completely agree, because even a small support early on can completely change the recovery trajectory. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and this is what we also do at Healthy Line Living.
Mhm.
Not everybody that comes to our doors has a mental health challenge. Some are there to just be a part of the family. But when we all have an agreement and a healthy lifestyle, which is healthy aligned living, you can't go wrong. The food you eat changes your mood and the way you think. The water you drink, the movies you watch, the music you listen to, the friends you have around you. Everything can change your mindset early and during recovery.
I agree completely, Dre.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about the impact healthy aligned living is making on the ground. You have shared stories from the community before. Is there one that stands out that really changed someone's life?
They all stand out to me, but the one that really stood out to me, we have a youth ambassador. He's 17. And when we were just first starting, we were looking for youth to help, and someone had referred him to us. He was homeless. He was addicted to fentanyl. He had been missing a lot of work. He had no resources. Just spending 3 months with us in the summer, coming to our events, our barbecues, our fundraisers, and then seeing the impact he stated after in his testimonial, we didn't realize how much of an impact it had on him. And just seeing that really stood out to me. But overall, I would treat everyone's story equal. Like I said, even if one life is blessed, I'm happy.
That's very touching. It really shows how much the timely support matters.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Now, my next question is, how do you measure impact? What does the success look like for Hall, both for the individual as well as for the community?
Well, to measure success is very hard. I mean, there is really no timeline when it comes to mental health. But as an individual, if we see they're being successful in life, whether they're working a full-time job, whether they've been fully housed for a certain period of time, let's say over a year, whether they have a family, they have kids, and they get married or they buy their first car and they come to me and they say, you know what, I have not been in that lifestyle for the past 5 years. To me, that is a big step. That is a big impact. Now, when we say for communities and basic society, that is also good for, when we look at the hospitals, the wait times hoping to decrease. How many calls are the police having to show up to? The healthcare system also gets affected with these positive impacts, right? So they'll be looking around one day and saying, you know what, something is changing and we wonder why. And we will be able to say we are part of it. So at a bigger scale, it's something that will take time. But right now we focus on the person, right? Because it's like, many generations, we ourselves being of our age, we can't really change you can't really teach a dog old dog new tricks. So we focus on the younger generation. Their brains, their minds are fresh, their energies are more livelihood, and they have a chance at life. They can do things that we wish we could turn back the times of hand and redo. But while they are here, we are not here to force anybody to do anything, but we can say suggestions or opinions and a little bit of guidance. And then that will streamline to their kids and their kids, right? So that's how we look at it.
Yes. Thank you for explaining that. It's great to see real impact. Now, we already talked about some real life stories. Now, I would love to dive into the strategies you use and the advice you would like to give to others. So, with all your experience, what advice would you offer to listeners who are concerned about someone showing early signs of struggle?
The biggest thing I would do is to try to change or try to develop new habits with them. So if you're seeing early signs of struggling, what is it that they like to do every day at 9 a.m.? What do they want to do? Are they looking to go on the phone every minute? What kind of food are they eating? Or do they even draw? Like, are they doing any arts? Are they connecting with others in the community, going to events, volunteering? So the biggest thing, in my opinion, is to start developing a healthy lifestyle. And when you're developing a healthy lifestyle, you forget what it was like. When you're 7, 8 years old and you wake up to go to school, you're thinking maybe Christmas time, you think about Santa Claus, or you're thinking about the Easter Bunny, or you think about seeing your best friend in class. You're not thinking about going to see the drug dealer, right? So we kind of want to rewire the brain to basically bring them back to that thought process of being, I don't want to sound Christian here, but reborn again, right? What was it like before the addiction? What things did they like? What did they enjoy? Were they going to church? Were they the team captain for a swimming league? Were they good at chess? Do they like basketball? And then developing these new habits will lead to changes in the brain, because the brain itself is connected to chemicals, right? And everything that you can get from an addiction, you can get from a healthy lifestyle. If you want to buy cocaine and you want to feel that super high, you can get that super high going to the gym. You could get that by having family and friends around you laughing. So it's just about rewiring the brain and retraining everything. I hope that answered the question. I got carried away there.
That
No,
advice is
I think
simple. It was so important. I appreciate it.
No problem.
and I loved how clear and practical that was, definitely. So we are talking about the support system. So I just wanted to know, like, what role do you think community or mentors or peers or faith group or safe spaces can actually play in ongoing healing and resilience?
It's very, very hard. I think people that come from the struggle are best to understand. I've worked in spaces where people have gone to school to be a social worker or a counselor, but they treat everybody like a number. Chapter 6 says that we have to do this. I think identifying everybody as a human, looking at people as they are, being non-judgmental, and just being more of a friend than a paid employee, that is the best way to help someone. Show us that youth do not trust certain systems, right? Especially when it comes to government or healthcare. We can change that. Now we understand, it's a very clogged up system. There's a lot of paperwork involved, especially with caseworkers. So I get it. It's everybody's a human being. Everybody has time, their own time, they have their own family. Basically, the best thing to create a safe space is to just treat everybody like a human being. Humanize, like not everybody's don't treat people like a number. Treat them as maybe your brother, your sister, your son, and being empathetic to their struggle, non-judgmental, don't always offer opinions or suggestions. Just be open and listen and let them be self-empowered. Self-empowerment is what actually, pays off because when they achieve something on their own accord from their own cognitive thinking, it's more rewarding than just, being pushed around or punished or scolded for not doing something. In some cases, people need time, and in some cases, people will move very fast. But the best way to create a safe space is just be non judgmental and see past all the distractions and look the person in their eyes and see them as a human being.
And this is such a strong reminder that recovery and growth are never meant to be done alone. Talking about Hall, I wanted to understand, like looking ahead, where do you exactly see Hall in the next 5 to 10 years? Any initiatives that you would like to highlight?
In the next 5 to 10 years, we would like to have our own center. We would like to have a lot of gardening programs. Gardening is a very essential tool for any adult or youth. Growing your own food is important and understanding things. Sports programs. We're hoping to work with the local football and basketball teams in the city to create safe spaces and to enjoy sports. And then just in general, work with the school boards, universities, colleges, and helping them receive hours for graduation and just developing the city. We want to, just help everybody learn life skills and mentorship. But right now, having our own facility and having a big gym, pool, garden, acreage where everybody could come and retreat and get away from the distractions of everyday pollution in a sense. That would be a good goal initiative that we're working on right now. And just to, keep going. This is something even after I die, somebody will be carrying the torch. Hopefully. That's something we're looking forward to the next 5 to 10 years. Just, being independent and working with the federal government on how we can make changes in other provinces like Ontario, British Columbia, Newfoundland, and just expanding. And at one point, maybe we'll get globally as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's really wonderful to hear, and I think it has so much of potential for impact as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
What are some ways our listeners can support your work, whether it's through volunteering, mentoring, donating, or simply just spreading awareness?
Yeah, all of those really. But the main thing we want right now is to just everyone just help raise the awareness of what we're doing. And, whether you join us on social media, Instagram or TikTok, just become part of the family. We really are not here to put a mandate, to be millionaires or to have a mansion or a Lamborghini. Our main goal is to create a community of support, and you could come as you are, no judgment, a safe space, a home for you, and we welcome anyone. It's not necessarily youth, it could be anyone. We won't turn anybody away, but our goal is to, work with the youth and, whether it's in-kind donations or monetary value. Those are good things, but right now, just joining and being a part of the mission is a big thing for us. And just being a part of the team is what we're really grateful for.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. It gives people clear and realistic ways to get involved.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Trey, I wanted to ask if there are youth, if there are parents, or if they are a concerned neighbor who is right now listening to us and want to help or seek help. What's the best way to reach Hall or reach you or connect with you if they want any help?
The best way to find us and to know more is our website, www.healthyalignedliving.com. Or if you want to reach out directly, healthyalignedliving@gmail. From there, you'll be able to see a trail of all of our social media platforms, and you can reach out to us through there as well. We will help everyone to our best of ability. We are not clinical doctors or nurses. We are peer led. We are coming from an aspect of going through the same struggle, so we'll do our best. But one thing we do have for sure is we have the connections and relationships with the people in our community that you will need to reach out to. So sometimes it makes things a bit easier for most people that are being waitlisted or just can't find a lot of the information on Google. And that's a lot of the times when I'm running into people, they're searching on Google or wherever and they cannot find anything, and somehow they find us, and then we're able to point them in the right direction.
Perfect. And I think that makes it quite accessible. So if you are someone who's seeking help, or if you are a parent, or if you are a concerned neighbor, I think Dre gave us all the details. So please make sure you reach out to Dre and Hall.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody needs to realize as well, it's not really a cookie cutter approach. Every individual has a different story and a different mind state, vision. We match everybody according to their goals and values. So we like to learn about everybody, what's working for them, what hasn't worked, or what they would like to try, and we go from there. But some cases people may need more time, and in some cases we've helped people overnight. So it just depends on the person and how bad they want it.
Great to
All
hear
right.
that.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much, Ray, for being with us today and for sharing your story, wisdom, and passion. This has been Align Voices. I'm your host, Mavis, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you, ladies. I really enjoyed this session today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ray. So what I would like to close this by saying, keep empowering, keep healing, and thanks everyone for listening to us.
Thank you.
To stay connected, visit our website and follow Healthy Aligned Living on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for more conversations, insights, and updates. If you would like to reach out, you can contact us by phone at 1-866-213-0518 or email us at info@healthyalignedliving.com. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might benefit from it as well.